Hello, my name is Claire, and today we're talking about imposter syndrome on the spectrum, so please, stick around. Hi friends, my name is Claire and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here, I make content about what it is like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, ring the bell. I almost forgot to mention that I put out videos 3 times a week or more or less or whatever. Anyway, your support means a lot to me. It helps me continue making videos, so thank you for being here. I try to be honest with you as much as I'm able, but I do have to admit that making videos where I talk about my feelings about my personal autism, it's not easy for me, but I know it's important, so onward. Because I spent so much of my life as an undiagnosed ASD person, I really do sometimes doubt that I'm on the spectrum at all. I, like many of you, was diagnosed much later in life. Prior to my diagnosis, I had no clue what it meant for a female to be on the spectrum. I just knew that I was me and I was different than most people. Not in the cute, I'm so different from other girls way either. In a, hey, she's pretty weird, we should probably leave her alone kind of way. Imposter syndrome. This is a term that I have known for several years, but I was fully introduced to the concept in an unlikely situation. That is, when I was at Cambridge starting my MPhil, my college gathered all of the newly matriculating students into a mandatory meeting. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is loosely defined as doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud in your situation. In the case of a prestigious academic establishment like the University of Cambridge, many students experience imposter syndrome at some point during their time there. They explained to us that we may feel like we had been admitted by mistake or that we had no right to be there, perhaps because we were not smart enough or good enough or world-class enough to continue our studies. We might feel as though we should leave or quit our program. They assured us that this was not the case and that if we were admitted, we deserved to be there, and that this was a very normal experience that most students went through at some point in their Cambridge journey. What struck me about this meeting wasn't really that people experienced imposter syndrome at such a high level, but really it was actually that they had an entire mandatory meeting around it at the start of each matriculation. It was so common that even in a place that had incubated some of the greatest minds in human history, they still had to have these meetings once a term. And side note, I'm still not sure I was supposed to be there either, so I'm glad that we had that meeting because, woo, I still feel like an imposter when I think about that year of my life. Looking back at that moment of time, I am so grateful that I was present for such a meeting because I often feel imposter syndrome when I think about my personal autism diagnosis. I feel like if I was autistic enough, I would have known sooner. I feel like people are judging me because I don't stim enough, or maybe my symptoms don't affect me enough or in the right way. Maybe I'm too functional to be autistic. Am I really autistic at all? Maybe the doctor who diagnosed me made a mistake because I don't always see a lot of ASD girls who present just like me. What if I'm masking at being autistic? Maybe it's just a personality that I've taken on because I got diagnosed. Maybe this diagnosis is just an excuse because I'm some sort of failure at being neurotypical. Maybe this diagnosis is unfair to all the other people who are struggling more than I am. I should be doing better. I know that all of these might sound strange, but I'm willing to bet that if you were late diagnosed like me, you've had some of the same feelings as well. So recently, I've really been thinking about why I feel this sense of imposter syndrome, even though I know 110% that I'm on the spectrum and that the diagnosis not only fits me, but it fits me like a glove. Especially after a few years of having the diagnosis and letting all of that settle in. So why do I feel this way? Well, it is kind of a good reason, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel so much better than I used to. I thought that after diagnosis, I would somehow feel worse about myself. I would feel more autistic because I was now self-aware of who I was and what my brain was doing. And I did, but it was a completely different result than what I thought it would be. I suppose I had just always grown up in a world where having autism was negative in my mind and was something that people looked down upon or something that you should feel bad about having or being. That was kind of the background that I don't think that that was ever said to me or taught to me, but that was the sense I was getting from all of my experience to do with autism and what it meant and what it looked like, that it equaled negative and that it was something somber, that it was something that would mark my life negatively forever, and that finding out later in life was the start of accepting this bad thing that had always been in me. I'm trying to relate my feelings in the best way that I can. What I'm saying is I feel the reason that I feel the imposter syndrome when it comes to my ASD diagnosis is because I thought it was going to be a negative thing when it was first presented to me. But for the first time in my life, I feel at peace. I feel good. I feel more comfortable than ever in my own skin. I feel like I'm able to learn and grow within myself because I know that I'm ASD. And I think it's the fact that I'm doing so well for the first time that personally I feel that feeling of imposter syndrome, because in my mind, I thought that it was going to be negative or that it would be negative. And yes, there are negative aspects to it. It's not like a joyride being on the spectrum, but on the whole, I feel like a new person. And I'm so grateful for that. I guess I've learned a lot about myself in that way. And it's so weird because I still struggle daily with depression, OCD, ADHD tendencies. But through all of that, I feel happier than I've ever felt in my entire life. I just never thought that at the end of everything, at the end of getting diagnosed and working through it, that would be the case. That I would feel so deeply grateful and at peace about everything. That for the first time in my life, I would be able to take a deep breath without anxiety. Not every day, but some days, and I didn't think that that would ever be possible. So the feeling that I'm getting of imposter syndrome is because I'm doing so much better. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. It all makes sense when I consider the weight that I was unknowingly carrying for decades. Now I've been able to put down some of that weight, or at least spread it around for the first time, and things feel a lot lighter. I think in my mind I thought it was supposed to be more difficult than this, but for the first time in my life I'm really able to give myself true grace. I feel like I can rest for the first time. So yes, I do experience doubts and some imposter syndrome because of my past and my late diagnosis, because of the ableist weights that I was carrying around. But all of that pales in comparison to the positive feelings that I have about my journey after my autism diagnosis. I haven't arrived at this place overnight, but the journey is still exciting for me. I can't tell you the positive change that a proper diagnosis has brought to my life. It still surprises me every day, and I can't wait to see how things continue to get better for me. I don't know how else to say it. Even when things are bad, they're still better than they used to be. I feel so much better, and I'm so grateful. I just never thought it was going to be so positive, and I'm so grateful that it is. And if I feel like an imposter because of how well I'm doing, then I hope everyone feels like an imposter. There really needs to be a shift in how we talk about autism and how we talk about late diagnosed autism. I say it a lot on my channel, but it hasn't been a death sentence at all. If anything, it's just been the best thing that has happened to me. And I never thought that I would get to that place. It has made everything in my life better and easier. It has made my anxiety, my OCD, so much more manageable. I'm able to have relationships with people for the first time. It's great. It's great. So I guess that's everything I wanted to say about the feeling of imposter syndrome in late diagnosed autistic adults. What do you think? Is this something that you struggle with as a late diagnosed person, or maybe somebody you know is struggling with it? How do you handle it when you have these feelings, and have you developed any healthy coping mechanisms to help you through them? Thanks guys for watching today. I am so glad to have you here. I will see you next time, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!